we join a lot of different communities in the Commonwealth, actually. And here on the South Shore, we particularly join the communities of Duxbury, of Mashpee, Wareham, and also Sandwich, all which have embraced and issued proclamations for Race Amity Day, which is always the second Sunday in June. So we're thrilled about that. That's a big deal for us. And we also know that there are many other communities throughout the Commonwealth who are having celebrations like this today. And so that's wonderful because Americans like to celebrate and we like to get people together. And this is a great cause to get people together. So thank you for coming. We appreciate it so much. The first thing I want to do is introduce to you the people who helped make this happen. So I want to ask the people from the Bourne-Wareham Race Amity Group to come up, please, because you are the people who support and help us carry through Race Amity. You have Nick and Joanne Kunis, who live in Onset, in the town of Wareham. You have Jack and Wandra Harmson and Pat Good on the end. We live in the town of Bourne. And so we've been doing this for a long time, since 1992. And Jack is going to talk a little bit more about the history of Race Amity. But without these folks, this wouldn't be happening. And so not just these folks, I also want to say we have a team of people who help with different aspects of this celebration. So we have Bob and Sue Bailey from Dartmouth who work with the games and also the art project. Can I have Bob and Sue stand up, please? That's Bob Bailey over there, and that's Sue Bailey over here. They're teachers, ex-teachers, and they know how to work with kids, and it's just wonderful to have them here today. So thank you so much, you guys. And you can sit down. And we have some special guests today as well, which is thrilling for me, and we're going to introduce those folks. We have, from the State Senate, we have Susan Moran. Susan, would you stand up? She's going to be speaking to you a little bit later. Thank you for being here. We also have with us today Melissa Ferretti from the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe. Melissa, could you, oh, she's right here. She'll also be speaking to you later. And we have other people from the town. We have Mary Jane Mastrangelo, if I pronounced your name correctly, right here. And both Mary Jane and Melissa are members of the Select Board here in the town of Bourne. So we're thrilled to have them here also. So this is a wonderful gathering, and we're going to start it off with a prayer for humanity. And last year he said a prayer for us, and he did such a great job that we asked him to come back this year and say another prayer for us. And that's our friend Noah Lee. I don't know if he's up to it today. Yes, Noah?
O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed all shall belong to the same households. In thy holy presence there are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle, and all have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illuminated through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all, thou hast provided for all, thus shelter all, conquerest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each all with talents and facilities, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all, let the relations agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Submit thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou, kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love, brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance, delight our ears with the melody of thy worlds, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful, thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooks the shortcomings of all mankind.
And now I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Melissa Ferretti. the chairwoman of the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe, and her Wampanoag name is Golden Dragonfly, if I'm not mistaken. It's a beautiful name. So she will be saying a prayer in Wampanoag, and she will also be saying a land acknowledgement. So let's give a warm welcome, please, to Melissa Ferretti.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you, Noah. That was really wonderful. So we'll start with an introduction. So Juanita Calpin, Natsumis, Melissa Ferretti, New Tomas, Sikwana Makapakwe, Wampanoag, Patuxet, and Bourne-Wareham. What I said to you is good morning. My name is, I am called Melissa. I am from Herring Pond, Wampanoag of Plymouth and Bourne-Wareham. I will start this with the prayer, Wampanoag prayer for every time. Manat Ka Nikwanakachi, Creator and Ancestors. Katapatanamu Wachi Wami Tiakwa Sanish. I thank you for all things. Katapatanamu Wachi Kisak. I thank you for the sky. Katapatanamu Wachi Anakwasa. I thank you for the stars. Katapatanamu Wachi Aki. I thank you for the land. Katapatanamu Wachi Sipuwash. Thank you for the rivers. Katapatanamu Wachi Kadapanash. I thank you for the oceans. Katapatanamu Wachi Wami Awahasa. I thank you for all creatures. Katapatanamu Wachi Wami Natongwasa. I thank you for all my relations. Ananama, Anian, Namanat, Nipi, Wanikak. Help us to see only what is good. Ananama, Anian, Asinat, Nipi, Solkwak. Help us to do what is right. Aho, it is done. Sorry, I have my readers on for this part. So I have been asked to offer a land acknowledgement. Today, land acknowledgements are used by Native people and non-Natives to acknowledge, to recognize and honor the first people of the land, those who are the original stewards to this place in which we now live and coexist with one another today. This morning, I will share a condensed version of what could certainly be a much larger acknowledgement. Today, we give thanks to this sacred place, what is known today as Bourne. The sacred place that lies beneath our feet is at the heart of what we call the Wampanoag Nation, and what is the traditional homelands of my people, the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe. We have called this home, this land home, for thousands of years. Our ancestors are buried here, and our descendants can still be found here walking amongst you today, along with the many other tribal communities and direct descendants of these tribes throughout the Commonwealth. The history of Bourne and Massachusetts colony as a whole is complex. What happened here on these lands impacted all native nations across New England and eventually spread far and wide into the Canadian Maritimes. The spread of colonization resulted in armed conflict, violence, enslavement, dispossession of land, and was a direct assault on all native cultures and life ways. we are not a conquered people. We are a brave, resilient, and determined people, well aware of our history. May we always be grateful, love one another, treat one another well, and never forget the first people of this place. Aho, it is done. Thank you.
That was just beautiful, and I think that's the first time I've ever actually heard someone speak in a prolonged way the Wampanoag language, so thank you so much. It's a real treat for us. And it reminds us of, again, why we're here today, because we call together all people for Race Amity, not just those who are different race, have a different racial makeup, but really we call together everyone, because there is really one race, we know, the human race, and it has lots of varieties and beautiful diversity. And the more diversity there is, we know the healthier the environment is. We know that in terms of biodiversity and gardening, but also in terms of human society and affairs. The more diverse, the more inclusive, the better and healthier whatever the outcome is. But right now I'd like to introduce to you Annette Almeida, who's very well known in the South Coast area, and she sings in a lot of places, and she's wonderful, and a good friend. So here's Annette.
This is a song from Red Grammar. It's called One Family. Open
everybody is familiar with the term amity. It's not a word that's commonly used today, very much, is it? And so today is Race Amity Day. So just an example of this, I was going around town putting up posters in different stores. And in one of the stores I went to, I gave it to the lady, and she said, yeah, I'll put it up. And she said, oh, it's in the park, yeah. They have lots of races there. What race is this? Is this a marathon, a race for cancer, a race for... And I said, oh no, this race is Amity. So, you know, it's that. So I asked you all, is there anybody here that has an idea what two words? What's Amity?
Friendship.
Friendship. Anything else?
Collaboration.
Collaboration.
Unity.
Unity.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Mutual respect. So, basically, Race Amity develops initiatives to promote cross-cultural and cross-racial cooperation that we hope impacts the public discourse on race in this country. And actually, Race Amities came to this country, or this idea of Race Amity conferences, back in the 1920s, which is interesting because at that time in our history, there was still full-blown segregation in our communities. And it was a very revolutionary idea. But it was inspired by Abdul Baha, who was the head of the Baha'i faith at that time, when he visited the United States. And he helped organize these conferences all over the United States, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and actually there was one in Springfield, Massachusetts. And these conferences brought together thousands of people, black, white, people of color, which was very significant because at that time our society was totally segregated. I mean, Sunday, they said, was the most segregated day of the year. So these conferences were held. But around 1957, the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States decided the civil rights movement was growing, and they felt that it was necessary to choose a day, to mark a day, and focus attention on racial prejudice. Racism, we know, is a belief that humans are divided into exclusive entities, and personality is linked to physical traits, and also some races are superior to others. So they understood, the Baha'is understood that racism was a huge hindrance to peace and prosperity in our country, and that's why they promoted a day of racial harmony and understanding, which we took out today, Race Amity Day. Also in Race Amity, it's interesting to know, we all know the history of race in our country. It's very, very difficult, very sad. But in the Race Amity movement, they emphasize also the other tradition. They call it the other tradition that was going on at the same time as all these terrible things were going on. And that was cooperation between like-minded people from all different races, from black, white, and people of color, Indian, all the different ethnic backgrounds in the United States. And some of the most famous, because they're the most popular or the most well-known of these instances are, for example, Mary McLeod Bethune and Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of the president. They organized a program together called Change America, and it was their training program that trained the black pilots at Tuskegee, the Tuskegee pilots. Another example in our history, and we don't learn about this history typically in school. Harriet Tubman worked with Thomas Garrett, and together they freed 2,000 souls who were liberated from slavery. Booker T. Washington worked with someone named Julius Rosenwald, and they built 5,000 schools in the South. So these are just some of the more well-known examples, although we don't know them all because we don't learn them typically. But I also wanted to share an example of Race Amity among common people, regular people that you wouldn't hear this story unless I told it to you. And it actually happened right in my own family. And some of you maybe have heard this story before, so be patient with me. but it's about my mother. My mother was raised in Buffalo, New York. She was born in the 20s. And Buffalo, New York is one of the most segregated cities in the United States. I mean, many of our cities are segregated. Buffalo was very segregated. So she grew up knowing no black people. And in 1957, strangely enough, the year that Race Amity Day started and Race Amity Day, my family moved out of Buffalo to a smaller town, Olean, New York. And in school, I met a little boy named Stevie, and I wanted to invite him home for lunch. And I asked my mother, and she said, sure, bring him over. So, I should back up just a little bit. My mother was a Methodist, she was Christian. She sang in the choir, she took us to church every week. She was considered a wonderful person, a great Christian, loved everybody. Okay. So I asked my mom, can I bring Stevie over for lunch? She said, yeah. So Stevie and I came over, we were in the kitchen, and my mom walked in the room, and my mom looked at Stevie, and all of a sudden her heart dropped. She got a pit in her stomach. She felt very uncomfortable. And the reason was because Stevie was black. So this troubled her very much. Now, I didn't know all this until years later when she told me this. But this made her stop. She felt very bad about this, and it made her reflect. What was that feeling? What was that she was feeling? And she realized it was racial prejudice. So she decided she had to do something about it. So when we moved back to Buffalo, she found a Methodist church downtown, Jefferson Avenue, which is very close to where the Tops Market is, where there was this horrible racially motivated killings that just happened. Downtown at Jefferson Avenue, she found a black church, a Methodist church. And she went down there and she volunteered her services. My mother was a seamstress. She could make curtains, pillows, clothes, anything. So she decided to go down there and offer her services. And for the next 30 years, she went every week, and she made profound friendships with people. And I'm sorry. And when she died in 2010, there were so many people from the black community that came to my mom to remember my mom and to acknowledge what she had done. And and the friendship, she invited them to our house in the suburbs, and she was invited to her house. But it's just an example, and in order to do this, you have to go out of your comfort zone. And she really did go out of her comfort zone to go into this church downtown Buffalo. Anyway, so that's just an example and how we can change this world one by one, each person doing their job. So that's all I have to say.
Proclamation. Whereas Bourne supports the Great Seal of the United States of America, which bears the inscription E Pluribus Unum, which translates from Latin as out of the many, one. And whereas the greatest asset of the town of Bourne is its people, and whereas the town of Bourne is comprised of multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multiracial citizens, and whereas friendship, collegiality, civility, respect, and kindness are commonly shared ideals of the collective citizenry of the town of Bourne. And whereas the National Center for Race Amity has invited communities across the United States of America to join in introspection and reflection on the beauty and richness of the diverse peoples of this great nation, while reaching out with a spirit of amity toward one and another annually on the second Sunday in June. And whereas House 2745, Chapter 163 of Acts of 2015 of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts establishes the second Sunday in June annually as Race Amity Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bourne Board of Selectmen do hereby proclaim the second Sunday in June to be Race Amity Day, and urge all citizens of the town to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. In witness therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen, have hereunto set our hands and caused the official seal of the town of Bourne to be affixed this 12th day of June, 2022. Bourne Board of Selectmen, Peter Meyer, Judith McLeod-Froman, Jared McDonald, Mary Jane Mastrangelo, and Melissa Ferretti. Thank you.
Without further ado, introduce to you our state senator, Susan Moran, and she's going to tell you about herself and about Race Amity. I do want to say, this is, disclaimer, that we are a nonpartisan group. However, that doesn't mean we do not vote, and doesn't mean we don't vote, doesn't mean we don't have concerns. And Susan has identified a lot of those concerns, as has other members of the state Senate, especially to do with the dumping of radioactive waste at Cape Cod Bay, and the housing shortage in our area. There are a number of issues which affect all people, impact all people. And Susan also has a great platform on those. But we are a nonpartisan group, and that does need to be said. But I want you to give a warm welcome to Susan Moran, please.
That was a really kind introduction. I'm so pleased to be here with you. I've earlier heard, I'm looking at the rainbows between us in our attire, and I heard someone say, well, this was my mom's, and that's probably the biggest piece that I appreciate today, is that all of you are here, giving a lot of time to make a beautiful production, and it really is paying it forward. It really is. It's no surprise there are teachers here, because it's also about educating that next generation. And if we don't lift our voices together, then we can't just leave it to the next generation to do it themselves. We really have to show each other. I also want to say I'm incredibly pleased and proud to be here with my sister members of government, Melissa, and you talk about leadership and keeping the concerns of Indigenous people in the conversation, as it well should be. And Mary Jane, just the sort of the go-to person in town, in having such incredible business sense for the town of Bourne, and always looking at things through a prism of having it make sense. And so I just had to mention that at the beginning. And although Race Amity, with just a couple of years here in this celebration, is a little bit of a child itself that we're nurturing, it's designed to bring people of all backgrounds together in peace and harmony. It's really about seeing the value in each other, right? And I appreciated your words earlier and giving examples of your mom really addressing her own feelings, and talk about paying it forward to you, and look what you've done with it. Seeing each other as equals, showing empathy to someone else's plight. We cannot know someone came to be the way they are without listening and without empathy. The back and forth of conversation is vital in that information loop. If there's no feedback, if you don't see someone as an entity with rights, then you can ignore them in their concerns, or worse, abuse them. The task to improve empathy must begin with ourselves, ensuring that we are seeing and hearing each other. And certainly song and music helps in that. That we do place ourselves in another's shoes before passing judgment. The easy path is to say that we have the power, and thus we can do what we want regardless of the impact on others. The far more difficult path is to address concerns and compromise. That we admit wrongs that we have done, and we talk about Wampanoag tribes, and I'm so pleased that Melissa, the chief of the Herring Pond Wampanoags, shares kind of the bi-coastal element of my district, because I represent 4 towns on each side of the canal here, Falmouth, Bourne, Sandwich, soon to be Mashpee in the district, and then of course Plymouth, Kingston, Pembroke, and soon to be Plimpton. And when we look at the way we work together, we need to move forward to be sure that power is used to benefit all. I ask that every one of you take a moment and reach out to those around you. This could be a person you don't know standing next to you, or a neighbor you have only just met. Find that common ground and build on it. The smallest voices, the parents here who have a very obviously bright child reading a prayer, that's the kind of example we need moving forward. The smallest actions can cause far-reaching ripples. For my part, I'll continue to advocate for every member of my district, regardless of who they are or what their position is, because we all have an obligation to listen and to protect everyone. I want to thank all of you for your investment in this cause today. It takes energy to come out on a weekend and to be among other folks who are just as determined as you are. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm very proud. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
World for you and for me. So why
realized we really don't need flash cards. No. And I went to all this work. To get,
You'll do it.
okay, so we go.
Yeah.
Because you're just repeating what she says, right? Yeah, well, yeah, we don't want to see them. No. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to do it over?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to do it over from the top. You just repeat after when I say, we are dropped